Hello, Locke.
Hello, Ludovic. How are you?
Oh,
Uh,
I'm fine. I'm really, really happy to have the opportunity to have a conversation with you.
yes, I wish I could converse in French with you, but unfortunately, I have not had the pleasure of learning. But merci beaucoup.
And it's never too late to
Yes,
learn.
that's true. I would love to do it.
Uh, for this interview, I will do a little presentation of your background.
Mm,
So, you're an author, a meditation teacher, a psychotherapist, and you're the founder of the Effortless Mindfulness Institute. And your teachings synthesize on ancient wisdom practices, neuroscience, and psychology. And you have authored The Way of Effortless Mindfulness and Shift into Freedom. So that's your two books. And you have created the Mindful Glimpses app.
yes.
And
So
first
liberté,
of
shift into liberté, right?
yes, first
Yes.
of all, because my presentation was a little bit short, could you share with us your journey as a meditator and maybe your masters or your teachers, your influences, and finally, what has led you to devote your life to sharing the effortless mindfulness approach?
Yes, certainly. Yeah, I can give you a short version of
Mhm.
the journey, which, as many people know, when you look back, you don't even I don't even realize sometimes what were influences originally, and some of them seemed like happenstance or synchronicities now, but then they were just kind of like, what is that? What's going on here? And kind of curiosities. Um, so little experiences in childhood, just kind of like wondering, sitting on a hill, looking out over space, just feeling differently and wondering. At one point, I remember thinking, "Oh, I wonder this is what adults must talk about
Mm.
all the time because it's so good." And then I realized, no, they don't talk about that. So, yeah, I mean, I even had some experiences playing sports, so different feelings of what would be called being in the zone or having what is known as flow consciousness, which is really actually very important now for me uh, to be aware of the qualities of flow because it's kind of a way of awake consciousness living in the world and feeling that I'm connected to everything and able to actually optimally relate and create and um, without having to filter it through a small sense of self or a thinker. Um, so, I would have an experience at one point of hearing somebody, a sportscaster, say he's got eyes in the back of his head as a 14-year-old. And I thought, oh, well, that's not actually looking behind you, but I know how to do that. That's kind of what I do. I just open my awareness up all the way around, and then it feels like I drop into my body out of my small center in my head, and then feel like I'm trusting, like a cat, um, to respond and feel kind of connected to my teammates and feel that time has slowed down, that I'm in the now, that I'm in my body, aware of my body from within rather than from above, and that it's not just kind of a meditation state where you're, stuck in stillness in on a cushion. It's actually like, oh, I'm happy, joyful, mostly moving, relating to other people in a way that feels so alive and joyful. And yet there's this quality that is the same in this flow consciousness as in effortless mindfulness, which is kind of the non-dual awareness quality that has the same qualities of stillness and pure consciousness, something that's kind of transcended the ego and yet is fully ordinarily extraordinary.
Mhm.
So I had, experiences like that, and when I explained this to somebody in a team, as I was a young person, one of the seniors on the team threw me a book the next practice. He said, "Here, kid, read this," and it was Zen and the Art of Archery. So that was my first, I picked it up, very short little book, and just said, "Oh my God, people value this, and it's real, and it's, what's considered culturally positive, and I know what that is." And so that kind of started me, interestingly, on this journey.
You talked about effortless mindfulness. In what sense is it effortless?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because it's not necessarily that you make no effort. You can actually make some effort, and sometimes you have to make some effort to calm or to clear or to settle or to work with different emotional states or traumas that are happening. But then when and if you can eventually make a move to either settle or let go or shift or drop or open, and that awareness is actually what's opening to itself, it discovers that there's already a dimension of our consciousness that's aware and awake and just alert and is directly perceiving everything without needing to comment from thought, and it's effortlessly here. It's not something we're creating. It's not something that needs to be, we don't need to concentrate to create it. We don't need to develop it like a skill. We almost need to unlearn and let go into this, and then rest as this kind of spacious and pervasive awareness, which is called nature of mind, or there's words in every culture and every language for kind of a foundation of pure awareness, but not staying in that pure awareness, effortless awareness too long. The word effortless mindfulness then means from that dimension of openness and ease and primordial clarity, that's not separate from the aliveness, the phenomena, the sensations, the thoughts, your body, and the room. So then there's a simultaneous awareness and aliveness are not two. There's this what's called same taste, the awareness and the movement, even the pleasant and unpleasant feelings are not threats to who we are, and yet we're not in this kind of witness disembodied position of awareness that some higher states of meditation. And this world and this body are not illusions. They're actually real on a relative level in that they're changing, but there's a compassionate connection and integrity to our life here as human beings, as well as, and its foundation is the awareness rather than thought. The mind is already effortlessly aware, and we're just caught in the middle. So that would be the effortless dimension of that.
So it's an effortless approach which requires a little pointing out instruction.
That's right.
Like in Mahamudra or
Yes.
Dzogchen.
Yes.
And
Those are more my traditions. In fact, the definition of effortless mindfulness came from one of my teachers I was fortunate enough to meet. I know you asked about that. So a person called Toko Urgen Rinpoche, whose sons are very well known today, Mingyur Rinpoche and Soni Rinpoche, Sokni Rinpoche. So I was fortunate enough early on to go to graduate school, to pursue this, and then have a fellowship from Columbia University to go to study in Sri Lanka and India and Nepal, and ended up spending some time with Toko Urgen. And he says there's two kinds of mindfulness, deliberate mindfulness and effortless mindfulness. And so when he said that just one time in one book, I thought, okay, that's a good phrase. That's the Dzogchen style mindfulness, or what's actually called Mahamudra mindfulness. These are traditions people may not know, but they sound like they have, kind of esoteric names. But that's been my main interest, is actually to make the essential practices simple and elegant and very available, without the trappings of the religious qualities, because this kind of recognition and realization, though I found it through these traditions like Tibetans, the Tibetans got it from North Indians. So Mahamudra came from North Indian tradition, and then the Tibetans took it up. So everything's been passed down and is similar throughout other traditions of Hinduism and Taoism and even many other contemplative traditions.
There's also the deliberate or classical mindfulness. And is it a requirement before accessing effortless mindfulness, or one can start directly with effortless mindfulness?
I mean, it's interesting because I don't have a should. The main thing is to say everyone's different, but it's possible to not do that first. And it's not a hindrance. It can help some, but some people can't even do it. There's a whole, so having now kind of been interested in being both a psychotherapist and a meditation teacher for, about 40 years now, I've seen, many people who deliberate mindfulness very helpful for, and I taught it in New York, helped start New York Insight Meditation because I had studied it. So I value it greatly. And yet some people can't do it. People with ADHD, many people in recovery from addiction, others who are just more, tend to be creative types. Their mind is a little more kind of right-brained, or, kind of, they just can't focus on their breath. And the goal of that first two practices are, the first practice is calm abiding, or shamatha, and that can be done in many ways. So the whole yoga tradition, those who are more kinesthetic or body-based doorway to calming, or breath, three-part breath, breathing into your belly, breathing up to your rib cage, holding your breath, and then breathing out slower and longer, shows, now we know that calms the nervous system, that you go from fight and flight and freeze to from a sympathetic to parasympathetic nervous system is calm. And that's the goal of the first initial practices. So whatever way it helps to calm the body and mind a bit, that tends to be a good rule. So you can do it traditionally or non-traditionally, or you can go right away, because many people have recognized this in extremely negative situations, just by being in severe crisis. Or I'll say one of the one of the people recently who came to me in a class was saying that she had been driving her car in the winter and came around a curve up in the mountains and put on her brakes just to slow down. And all of a sudden she started spinning. And she could see there's a railing there and there's a precipice. And she just let go. She just said, I just let go. He said, somehow I knew there's nothing I could do. I can't move the wheel. I can't use the gas. And she just went into this complete, she said, it was complete peaceful. Time slowed down. I felt like the doer had lost its job. The seeker had left, had rested. And what appeared was something more than just acceptance, like a feeling of, oh, I accept this, try to accept everything as it is, but interconnection to the universe and a feeling. So then, fortunately, she hit the railing and the car didn't go over. So she was able to report this later, but it changed her life. And there's a whole group of people now that I find who come to this, who I call the naturals. So they haven't done any meditation. They're somehow kind of open-hearted people. Is about, I call them the naturals, or the open-hearted people, or the and they just kind of get it. They don't need to do a lot of meditation first. They're just like, well, just have your awareness drop and open to the space in the room, and then rest as this which is aware. And then from here, just include everything. And now, notice. And then once you do that, once you start with the goal, so often in Dzogchen, they say the goal is the path, or you go to the final realization or the solution as the first step, and then come back to the problem. So you don't want to stay, some systems, even of called non-duality, go to I am pure awareness and everything else is illusion. And they try to stay in that pure awareness, which my experience is that it ends up becoming kind of an intellectual belief system that they're in awareness, and that I am aware there's nobody here named Loch. I go to the grocery store and random things end up in my cart because there's no chooser, no doer. So in this non-duality, which is kind of more the Buddhist non-duality, or a certain form of the key is to realize that you come back, and then you can see from here, oh, there's no solid self. Oh yeah, of course. But you found the solution already, which is the new operating system. So you don't have to get caught in, if you go step by step, you can get caught in kind of halfway there position, which can either be pure awareness itself, or even before that is kind of a no self, where you deconstruct the ego, but then you also deconstruct the ego defenses, and people can get flooded. So there's research, which you may know from people like Willoughby Britton, who find that 40% of people who go to their first 5-day Vipassana retreat, where you do go through the, not just shamatha, but you go through the first stages of deconstruction of looking at thoughts, feelings, sensations, there's no solid self, that then unconscious material will come up, different exiles or shadow parts, or whatever you want to call that, material will take them into a hell realm, or like Dante's Inferno, you'll go down. So this is why it's kind of interesting that I think that a full direct practice that isn't just one and done, that is go out and come back and then start working with the unconscious material, the trauma, from the awake consciousness, that direct approach is actually safer than the gradual approach.
And in your approach, which is a direct approach, so you give mindful glimpses. How did you create this?
In some ways, it's I'm more of a scientist and an artist than I am a religionist and
Mm,
a spiritualist. So I started artistically and like, okay, what's going on? Let's go learn from the bests. What are they doing? And then ask questions, which many of them would never answer because if they're very traditional, it's like, well, we can't talk about that or something like that. I was like, okay, just show me. Let me try it. So I would try the practices and go like, oh, this is similar to that. Oh, where are you trying to get to? Oh, I see. And then do you stop there or do you go, oh, you keep going, but where? Where do you avoid? What states of consciousness are you looking for? Which ones? What is it what's able to find it? If the mind can't find it, if thought can't get there, if the small self can't grow up to be the no self and the big self, what is it that is what does it feel like to let go? What's letting go? What's it letting go into? When you let go into it, what's this like? And how does it, is it something you created or is it something you've discovered? And then, so then I would find my way, which was whichever way for me wasn't, every way didn't work for me, but
mm,
some ways worked. So I would get there, here, there was here always. And then I would kind of reverse engineer. I'd sit there and I go like, okay, let's see how I lose it. Let's see, let's
mm,
see how I get caught up or identified again or blended. Like, let's just stay. Okay, but I'm not interested in keeping it. I'm actually interested in losing it and then coming
mm,
back. So I would let it, kind of creep up. A thought would go by. Oh, that's no problem. An emotion would arise. Okay,
mm,
there's no problem with thoughts and emotions, but then thought, motion, idea would just form into a little package of identity, and then all of a sudden I'd be like, oh, I'm in it, I'm identified, and then I go like, all right, so then how do you get back
mm,
and then include? So how do I, and then when one of those would start to arise, I'd be like, okay, so do I have to identify, or is there a way to what's called a mixing practice? You're kind of mixing, and then it would kind of pop and show itself as like, oh, it's all okay. Even kind of what I call shaking and baking, like shaking through. If something very triggering would happen, it'd be like, oh, whoa. But there'd still be space and unpleasantness. And the unpleasantness wouldn't make me create a powerful protector or shut down
mm,
into a contracted position or a strategist that, how do I get out of this? How do I stop this? It would be like all those parts would be going on, but I'd be like, yep, there we go again. There
mm,
goes the system. And it's not just one ego, it's like these different subpersonalities, which is really kind of bringing it together with more contemporary psychology understanding as well.
mm. Yeah, you talk about parts, and
Mm.
I saw that you recently led a 2-day workshop on internal family systems.
Mm.
And can you describe a little bit what is that system, and what's the link with effortless mindfulness? Because it's traditionally the psychology and the um, spirituality are not so intertwined. So what?
They seem not to be friendly, but then
Mm,
there's also spirituality that's not friendly to the body. And then
mm,
physical systems like, people who are athletic are not so friendly to consciousness, and even many yogic systems which are supposedly spiritual, they'll just like, okay, and let's meditate for 1 minute. Okay, thank you everyone, and so there so there's these kind of divisions that have been traditional, and my interest is, okay, the goal is walking around in awake consciousness and relating and creating. So sitting on the cushion, you'll get one experience. But when you get up, if that's the way you're going by that way, what is it that appears and how does it appear to take you out of these qualities, this fundamental dimension, this what's called ground of being, or rigpa or turyatita, not just turiya. So in Hinduism, turiya means pure awareness, and then turyatita means pure awareness plus thoughts, feelings, sensations, sleep, waking consciousness, everything else. So you're grounded in that non-dual awareness, but non-dual awareness is only half of non-dual. The other half is non-dual liveness. And so you can't just live in non-dual awareness. You can go into it as a meditation state, but nobody can live from pure awareness. Because as soon as you speak or move, then you would have to call this illusion or a dream or something to only but there's a way that this precious human body and this ultimate reality of rigpa or pure awareness or awake consciousness, dharmakaya, and then sambhogakaya, which is another body. Kaya means body, energy body, and then manakaya means relative human existence, and they're not separate. So how do the three come together, and what is it that is the real obstacle when you're walking around in the middle of your life? And what it seems to be is it isn't thoughts, feelings, sensations. It is patterns of thoughts that come up in, some people call it ego, but if you look at it, so let's say, you're of two minds, oh, I think I should do that. Oh, I don't think I should do that. I should do that. Well, why don't you do? No, that's not going to work because this. Oh, okay, that's it. So there's different sub personalities, which majority of modern psychology now acknowledges. Some have other theories, but in internal family systems, which is similar to what I was practicing, the self is the healing self, which is more the Hindu understanding of non-dual self with a capital S, which is similar to the Buddhist awake consciousness or true nature or nature of mind, is what can be aware of your body and what happens when different patterns of thought create identities, which you kind of have to play a human being when you walk around during the day. Someone says, "Hello, how are you?" That is an interesting thought. What kind of tea would you like? All tea is the same. There is no. So you're going to have preferences. As soon as you have preferences, you have a history of conditioning that comes up. So psychology is conditioning. It can be very strong, like trauma. And this has been denied in both in Eastern and Western communities. And I've talked to a lot of Eastern monks who were traumatized, similar to a lot of communities in the West, and guru communities where there was acting out or abuse, or so people have these, and they're trying to divide it as if they do end up doing what's called a spiritual bypass. They don't have physical, emotional, and psychological or conditioning integration. So it's just being with what is that shows up as it does. It's not, and using the awake consciousness foundation to be loving to kind of the parts of you that start to either judge yourself, like the real critical parts, or the parts that I'm not good enough, what's wrong with me? How come everyone else? Everyone has those. And they come up, and when they take you over and take you into depression or into anxiety, because your system feels like you're back in time and there's a threat. So it's just saying, okay, that's like the way this human system works. Let's not just stay within it and do what I call a psychological underpass versus a spiritual bypass. So psychological underpass means you only do psychological work and you keep doing a lot of analysis and only, oh, what am I feeling? Oh, that's not good. Oh, I should try to be nicer to myself. So this is what I find to be kind of a missing link of the fullness of living an awake life.
It's really non-dual. There's
Yes.
no separation.
Non-dual in the one sense of the non-dual. It seems there's a few definitions, yeah, but this is both and or the simultaneous or the
Do you use the term awakening or liberation or
Yeah.
enlightenment in your teachings?
Yeah, I don't use enlightenment. One of the reasons it seems to have in English it has meant, so as if it's I don't know what that part of speech is or part of, but it just means like, okay, that's it, I'm done. It's either not enlightened or enlightened or enlightenment. But awakening seems to have a more of a verb. It's more unfolding. So I'll use awakening, and awakening, I'll even use it as I do, very playfully as I kind of play with my own consciousness and try to explain it, that there's kind of awakening from that kind of limited, contracted, everyday mind, which thinks it's, I think, therefore I am, and self-references and feels limited. You wake from it, and then you wake to the effortless awareness or the awake consciousness, the rigpa, the turiya, and then you wake as, which means you're not just aware of it, but you're like, oh, am I aware of the spacious, pervasive, primordial, already alert awareness? Yes. Oh, or am I aware as it? And then the key is when you're awake from it, it requires that you ask the question, how do you feel? What's the relationship between pure awareness and movement, sensation, vibration, your body in the room? So I could do a little glimpse, if you like, now, just
yeah.
to kind of illustrate that.
Yeah.
So it's, one of the unique things I do is there seem to be two styles of direct practice. One is the resting method, or the do nothing method, or the sitting method, or the just sitting, do nothing, let go, just let be, surrender, let go. And the other one is kind of having awareness be aware of itself. So awareness of awareness can happen after the sitting happens, then awareness of awareness shows up. But this is kind of one of the styles of Mahamudra where when you reverse engineer, you realize there's this field of awareness that's arising as your body. And then when you focus from awake consciousness that has this non-dual, you realize it's almost, you're no longer using attention from your mind like a flashlight. You're using local awareness, which is connected within the field of, but it can focus. So you can focus from within. So if you are aware of your breath while awake, you're aware of it from your chest or your belly you're not aware of it using attentional awareness. You've unhooked awareness, and now awareness is aware of your eyes, and now it's aware of your jaw, and now your awareness can drop and be aware of your throat from within, and then it can be aware of your body from within your body, and then you can be aware of your breath rising and falling from within and from all around. So you've kind of unhooked and dropped from head to heart space or to breath place. And you can feel the kind of awake body of, and then you can feel this kind of interconnection or awake space all around. So that's one way to go this way. And the other, so that's one glimpse to kind of unhook and drop, and then open and then include everything. And that movement of getting the feeling of having awareness decenter or wake up from, and then go by direction of the body. So go within. So you feel your jaw from your jaw, and you feel your throat and your neck from within, not looking back up to thought, not stretching attention down, but feel a direct perception as the awareness drops and is aware directly from within, feeling the effervescent aliveness, the space, and the awareness that's has no boundary, so it's equally outside and within. And then you just kind of take a breath and just breathe out and just like feel ordinary, like, okay, so I'm just not neurotic. I'm not, self-referencing. I'm not living in my head. Just here, no big deal. So that's kind of one of the keys, is to get like, it's not a big, it feels extraordinarily ordinary, but if you look, you'll see there's no worry, no fear, no anticipation of the next moment, no striving, nothing to be pushed away, just being, and yet also with pleasant and unpleasant as non-threat and non-shame. So that's kind of a kind of soft awareness and soft animal body of your being that isn't in this time-bound, thought-based center in your head looking out, and yet your eyes are open, your ears are open. You're not closing your eyes to get it. You're just, everyone's felt this, and it's kind of what we do. And many people, in terms of like a flow consciousness, flow state, that if you think about, anybody's listening, what do you do in your free time that you love to do, that takes you, that's open-eyed and active? So if you dance, or you play a sport, or you listen to music, or you play music, or you garden, or the premise is you do that to get out of your head and into this awake, active consciousness that's non-ego centered, that's in the now, that's embodied, that's optimally functioning. And so that's what I call the forward aspect of awakening, that isn't the whole thing, but it has some of the qualities. But most people, when they're doing it, they think it has to do with the activity. They think, oh, I need to go do that. That's the only time I feel like I'm free. And it's that person, place, thing, or activity that starts to become an object, but it's actually a door. And once you realize it, within and behind you, then you can enter this. And then the key is now do any activity, do a boring activity, do something you don't like, and notice you're still in the flow.
It's really concrete, really embodied.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I have another question and another subject.
Sure.
I know that you are closely interested in contemplative neuroscience,
Oh, yeah.
and notably through the Effortless Mindfulness Research Center, and you have participated in studies with Judson Brewer or Zoran Josipovic, and they are leading neuroscientists in contemplative neuroscience. And could you describe the impact of non-dual mindfulness or awareness on the brain, and what are the consequences in the structures of the brain?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting in that one of the reasons I am involved in it a little bit is like, this is real, like
Mm.
this isn't just imagination, like, and it has an effect on the body, but it isn't so much that it has to have an effect on the body, because certainly in any moment, it it often will release that micro tension, like, oh, of holding, and the, that the fight or flight or freeze, or the nervous system that is, going, like, whoa. And there's the effect that feels relief and open and less constricted. And then as you do it, there's more to it. But I think the thing I was interested in particularly was trying to see what was going on, not just in that first stage of pure awareness, where you would kind of awaken from the mind to this first level of non-dual awareness, but the non-dual awareness that would then wake into the embodied and interconnected dimension. And that's one of the ones we did, one of the experiments I was a participant in with Zoran Josipovic
Mm.
at NYU. So myself and a bunch of people, mostly Tibetan monks and others like that, did this practice which are each of which are in my you can try in my app. That they're not super advanced. I say that to say it's not advanced. It's available. You can do it. Is that basically kind of similar to what we just did? Just drop down, open up to the awareness that has your back. That awareness rises as the kind of wave of your body and looks out through the eyes of your heart, and you just feel equally inside and out. So awareness is not just outside as pure awareness, it's equally aware as the awareness, but it's also arising as energetic aliveness that isn't being pushed away, isn't being negated, but it's not the foreground, and it's not creating a small self that's managing it. So that study, which is what it showed, is that often you'll hear in psychedelic research and in research of the deliberate mindfulness that the default mode network of the brain will be turned off or go down, or be, actually less on. And the default mode network is very interesting. So default mode and task mode networks are these two alternating networks. In the mind, one task mode is external, extrinsic when you're doing a task outside. So even watching your breath is an external task, or watching a candle. So you keep doing that, external, 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 mind wanders to default, come back external, and then you you really repress it. So you're just doing external. And so you're calm because you don't have this one dimension of self creation is this daydream mode, default mode network that creates a, when you go into daydream, you're like, oh, what should I do? You're always the subject of the movie. And you're like, oh, I should be doing that, or wonder if I would ever do that, or what happened with that person. I should have said this, and what did I, it'll go both past and project in the future, and then you come back, oh, what am I doing? But that's not the only creation of self. There's also the, so what happens in this, what I call non-dual balance, or both and awareness outside and inside, is the task mode and the default mode are balanced. They're both on at the same time rather than alternating, which they tend to do. You go into daydream, you go into task mode, you go to daydream. They're both on. And what happens is you just feel this kind of seamless ease and interconnection. And the default mode isn't just negative. It's a lot of creativity and kind of aha moments that there's, when you measure brains here, you see that on the EEG, you see this kind of synchronized gamma, which are the aha creativity mode. And even the default mode has the ability to, as an ethical insight, it is able to put yourself in the shoes of another person. So you don't want to lose that. So when you do the balance, you're not taken over by default, but you're not also taken over by a kind of very kind of left brain frontal lobe, almost mechanistic mindfulness. I am now eating, lifting, moving, seeing my food, and now I'm very mindful of that. And that doesn't, it's not juicy enough. So you want to get the juice of life, and can you feel all your emotions and not let them take you over? So this is this is kind of one of the most interesting studies that I was involved in.
Yes, I read the study, and it's quite challenging to read, but it's really interesting and fascinating.
It's easier
And
to do practice than to read the study.
yeah, yes. And speaking of practice, so you have the Mindful Glimpses app, which is available on Apple Store and the other stores. And what's are there more glimpses than your in your books, or it's the same mindful glimpses?
Yeah, in fact, one of the programs is the publisher Sounds True allowed me to put in all the glimpses which hadn't been recorded by me. When they did the audio. They had like an actor read them. So one of the programs in the app is me going through chapter by chapter each of the glimpses. So that's one program, and there's like 15 programs and a starter that have different approaches. So the idea, and I'm still building it, is to really honor different learning styles. So different doorways that people start, because often the starting point is the hardest. That people can't get this first level of awareness of awareness. So just to say that the deliberate mindfulness has everything in it is pretty understandable with our common understanding. Okay, bring your attention to your breath. Oh, I know what my breath is. I know what my attention is. Okay, bring it. Okay, now when your mind wanders or your attention wanders, notice that and bring it back to your breath. Okay, good. That's it. That's meditation. Okay, next one, become aware that thoughts, feelings, and sensations are not a solid self. They just keep coming and going. So you do interoception, you look inside, you start to meditate, you realize that you create this kind of point of view from a mindful witness. And now you can start to see, oh, am I thinking this thought? Oh, that's a thought. Even though it started with I am thinking this thought. Oh, that was a thought. That wasn't an I. So that's those are fairly, a little bit of learning, but not so difficult. But this first move, which shouldn't be the only move, and shouldn't stop at awareness of awareness, but that awareness of this awareness, I offer different ways for more kinesthetic people, for visual types, auditory, intuitive, more intellectual types people, so that you can get that first glimpse. Maybe I'll offer one more glimpse.
Please.
So this one, the first one I did is kind of unhooking awareness and coming down. So this one goes a little bit out and can be one that many people are surprised they can get a feeling for awareness that's effortless, the effortless mindfulness. So the premise that we've been talking about here is that there's a thought-based small self that keeps organizing as a ego function, even though it's become an ego identity. So it is, as a function, it's trying to help you discriminate and solve problems, right? So is that a green light or a red light? Do I cross the street? You got to cross the street. Is that poison or is that? So but then it becomes contracted around itself and thinks it's me. And so its main contraction is around being a problem solver. It's trying to solve problems. Is there a problem here? Let me solve it. Is there a problem out there? Let me solve it. So that it's safe, right? So what if the premise was that there's this, as you sit here now and just listen, eyes open or closed, that there is this alert awareness that from being in the flow that isn't constricted to thought and is already aware, that could be aware of itself and you could be aware from it. So that's the premise so now here's the inquiry. So this is an inquiry style pointer or invitation. So here it is. So what's here now when there's no problem to solve? So if the problem solver can just relax or rest back, what's this that's aware, that doesn't have to go to thought to know, that's alert, effortless, clear, boundless, and here? And then what's it like as you're aware of this that's here when there's no problem to solve? What's it like to rest as this awareness? Instead of being aware of it, just resting as this effortless awareness. Just being mindful of whatever is without labeling anything. Just notice, where am I aware from? And then as this awareness, just begin to notice what's the relationship to vibration, sensation, movement, sound, your body, and the room. If they're not two, and everything's welcome. So what's it like just to be here now, kind of ordinary, taking a little deeper breath? Just breathing out, relaxing, just dropping, opening, including, No big deal, not trying to maintain anything, just resting as that awareness, which is already aware without your help, that is arising as waves of experience, interconnected with everything inside and out. Do you recognize this feeling from some other dimensions of your life or things you do? And is this just curiously asking yourself, is this a meditation state occurring to me? Or could this be more of who I truly am, to which other states, ordinary states and contractions are welcome to appear? So this is kind of a short glimpse. What do you say about that, Ludovic?
It's one of my favorite. I practice this one a lot. So uh, it's a very evoking. It's really it clicks really easily.
Can you translate just to say like what's here now when there's no problem to solve? Can you say that in French? What's the
Qu'est-ce qu'il y a maintenant s'il n'y a pas de problème à résoudre? Qu'est-ce qu'il y a maintenant s'il n'y a pas de problème à résoudre?
yeah, beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. There's another one,
Yep.
which was the first of your first book, I think, that you did that clicked. It was the one with the fingers and
Yeah.
the periphery, and this one was very um, it there was a shift after, and it's when you explain when you played hockey. It's
Yes.
yes.
Yeah. So I can do that one, and you know, it'll be good because it mostly is nonverbal once you once you. So you know, just very briefly, the we talked about the the contracted issue that keeps us from recognizing our awake consciousness is the small self, and it tends to use our eyes almost to grasp. So our ears are more natural. So if you become aware of hearing other sounds in the room, you'll start to feel kind of the usual way people experience a hearing, as if sounds are coming from somewhere and the sounds travel through the air and they come to your eardrums. And so hearing feels like receiving. Yeah. Just check that out. I mean, you may not have thought about it ever, but if sound, you know, if you just make a sound even of your click your own finger, and it feels like sound waves are coming. So, but with seeing, if I say, you know, look at this, or look at this, or say, okay, look at an object to one side of this screen you're looking at, or another side. Notice how seeing almost has a direction this way. So it's almost like the hand goes out. So look at that, right? Feels like it goes that way. Is that the way it feels? Just check it out so you can feel the normal way that it's kind of hooked up for you. I don't know. Some people have different experiences, but that tends to be the most normal way. And so what if I were to say as the first pointer that seeing, even biologically, works the same way as hearing? Light reflects off of objects and comes to your eyes. So light reflects off of objects comes to my eyes, comes to your eyes. So hearing is receiving, and now just what does it feel like when you allow seeing is receiving? Yeah. So looking at an object and let the light reflect off of it. And then just notice that even if your attention with that grasping mind goes to that object, see if you can also unhook the awareness and become aware of the space between the object and your body. And then let that local awareness become aware of the space between your eyes, between your ears. And curiously, is that awareness able to become aware of the space behind you and within you, so that if you're doing anything, you're resting back as this awake space, which is then with effortless mindfulness connected to your body and that object all at once. So that in itself can be a pointer. And then just notice that your eyes, more rather than pinpointing, can be kind of in a circle. You can kind of look over the screen, and then maybe even put your hand up over the screen, look at it and drop it, so that you're not looking at an object like your hand. When you drop it, don't go to the wall, but receive light off the wall and look at the space. So you're feeling the space in front of you, within you, behind you. So more interested in sky gazing in space. And now this next pointer is just letting your awareness begin to open up to the sides. So as awareness on the left and right begins to open, your peripheral vision will open usually. Your eyes are still resting in their sockets, floating, and they're still looking forward, but the awareness opens your peripheral vision a little bit. So now you have more of a wide gaze, but you're receiving still. And then as this awareness continues to open, this local awareness, let go of seeing and become aware of the space in which sound is coming to your ears. And then somehow continue around behind you to become aware of the space behind you in which sound is coming and going, so that you now feel like your awareness is open in a kind of a panoramic way. So feel as if you're open to space in front, above, below, left, to the right, behind you, and just open to the space in the room. Let awareness mingle with space, so that then you can be aware of the awareness that's spacious, and then rest as that spacious awareness. And notice and feel that the spacious awareness, because it's on your right and your left, is certainly also within. So don't continue to rest out, but feel equally here. Yeah, so you can even take a breath, deep breath, and let a sigh come out. As you're aware of that space, and then just notice again, as before, what's it like? What's the relationship between that pure awareness and the first movement of sound moving through space, arising, co-arising as awareness in space, of vibration, breath, your body, and the room, again, as you breathe out. Just drop into an ordinary, extraordinary feeling that awareness has your back and is arising as your body with all its cloud of sensations, and looking out of the eyes of your heart mind, connected to everything and everyone. And just kind of feeling a grounded support, and notice a kind of quality of safety that you could respond if you needed to. So if any parts of you are like, what's going on? What's going on? Just let them know that we're just still safe, still here, could respond. We're not sleepy. We're not zoned out. We're not spaced out. We're actually more optimally functioning in this kind of flow, grounded, embodied, interconnected, released from over agitation of worry and fear and anxiety and stress. And yet with whatever's arising, pleasant or unpleasant. So just notice, where am I aware from? And then just, you can kind of fine tune. If you're a little too spacey, make sure you're a little more in. If you're a little sleepy, feel like you have that day sky. Your body can rest. Any parts of you that need to rest, and then notice that the awake consciousness is wide awake like the day sky. Alert and responsive. You could move your hand. You could use thought. And then when you finish moving your hand, you could put it down. If you use thought, you could put it down and still have the potential to respond or create from here. So, so that's one of those.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you very much. It's it feels like um, we can be a samurai space yogi.
yes, space, yeah.
Like, yes, it's
Yeah.
alert but grounded and very open.
Yes, that's right.
Really,
So that's the key, is that not just open, not just closed. Some people talk about, I got it, I lost it, you know, or trying to make camp in no self, or try to make camp in pure awareness only. But it's the inseparable pair of awareness and aliveness.
Thank
So,
you very much for these glimpses. And thank you also for kindly answering my questions. And sorry for my accent, which can be sometimes very difficult to understand, because I don't practice speaking English so often. So thank you for your patience. And
beautiful. Nice, and so glad to be able to communicate the best we can, and you facilitating bringing some of this to the French speaking world, because it's you know, I wish I could do it, but it's we will do it together, and it's good. Thank you so much.
thank you again for your generosity and
Okay.
for your time. And
Okay.
I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Ludwig.
Thank you, and have a nice afternoon.
Thank you. You too. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.